Kinder, and everybody, and we are learning the Maimir. Now this week is Pashas in A. It's Shabbos Mevorach Melul, and we're 1 week behind. With Aikev. Next week is the Maimir of the A, and then the Maimir after that is the Vihaya Aikev. So that's how I'm planning to catch up. Okay, it's a short Maimir. You can see it's a short Maimir. It's 5 Amudim. Right? It's a short Maimir. My bottom are between 8 and 10 Amudim. This is short. But don't let the size fool you. Because it's gepackt. It's concise. It's like a short, but there's a lot. And if you look in footnote 2, you see the Makoyas. 2 from the Tzemach Tzedek, and 1 from the Rebbe Rashab. And in footnote 8, you also have from the Alter Rebbe, right? Makoyres for this Maimir. And then, of course, in footnote 8, you also have what the Rebbe spoke to Sinyan in Toshin Tezayim, Vihaya Aikev. Upon him, the Rebbe spoke to Sinyan in Toshin Tezayim. How do I start the Maimir? To give you an introduction. This is Limut, introduction. It says in Kabbalah, and it's brought in Chassidus, that every mitzvah you could be makayim b'machshava dibur. Every mitzvah can be fulfilled at a level of thought, on a level of speech, on a level of deed. For example, when you want to bring a korban, so there's the actual physical korban of Vidasiya. You could learn about the korban, called Esik B'Teira, say you can hikr there will be dibur. And you could be mechaben the kavanah of a korban, and that would be machshava. Or like I saw in a Maimir, I looked up the Aybeis. I actually looked up the Aybeis, from which this Maimir is based in part. He says that the doing of the mitzvah, there is the bracha of the mitzvah. The bracha, that's the dibur, that's what they call it, the bracha of the mitzvah. And then there's the Torah of the mitzvah, the understanding of the mitzvah. That will be the machshava. So it says in a lot of Sfarim that there's an union of doing mitzvah machshava dibur. In other words, even Talmud Torah, limud Torah, you can do on the level of machshava dibur ma'aseh. And even a mitzvah like tzedakah, you could do on all 3 levels of machshava dibur ma'aseh. Every mitzvah can be done with machshava dibur ma'aseh. And I think it says in Tanya, and you guys get it from test, from Arizal, I think, I'm almost sure, that one of the prerequisites for the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu is that every neshama, there's 600,000 neshamas, every neshama has to be Makayim, all Taryag mitzvahs, all 630 mitzvahs, by machshava dibur ma'aseh. All 630 mitzvahs have to be done by machshava, all 630 mitzvahs have to be done by dibur, and all 630 mitzvahs have to be done by ma'aseh. Then Mashiach comes. Right? The process of Gilgul, there's 600,000 neshamas. This 600,000 neshamas has to fulfill many things. One of them is it has to learn Kol HaTeira Kula B'Padis, the whole Teira on all 4 levels. Another idea is that it has to be divided its chelik in the world. The world is divided into 600,000 portions. Every neshama is given 1 chelik. And then you have to makayim all taryag mitzvahs, all 600 mitzvahs, all 3 levels of machshava dibur. So in Zman HaGolus, when many mitzvahs cannot be done by ma'aseh b'peil, so you have them by machshava and you have them by dibur and so on. The bottom line is there's a shleimus, there's a perfection, there's a wholeness when you do all the mitzvahs on all 3 levels of machshava dibur ma'aseh. Every single thing in the Yiddishkeit, you do on a level of machshava, which means to think about or to understand. On a level of dibur, which means to speak about or to emote, to say it with emotion. And then you have to do it with your hands and your feet. The Vishek in Tanya Perek Dalet. Tanya chapter 4, the implication at the beginning of the Perek is that even though there's machshava dibur or ma'aseh, thought, speech, and deed, machshava dibur mitzvahs, their machshava is connected to seichel, and dibur is connected more to regesh, to emotion, and ma'aseh is obviously connected to asiyah. So there's a certain concept of shleimus In Torah and mitzvahs, they do everything but machshava dibur u'maisa. So I'm repeating myself again. Even though some mitzvahs are primarily machshava, some mitzvahs are primarily dibur, some mitzvahs are primarily maisa, there is a doing each mitzvah, the shleima of doing each mitzvah wholly, and completely doing each mitzvah on a level of thought, each mitzvah on a level of speech, each mitzvah on a level of action. And that's what this maimed is about. This maimed is about Tishmu'un u'shmartem v'asisem. Tishmu'un is machshava, u'shmartem is dibur, v'asisem is maisa. And then you get schar. What's the schar? Bris, chesed, and shvua. Bris is maisa, chesed is machshava, and shvua is dibur. This is what it says here. And all this is based on the Ayin Beis. Not the Rebbe doesn't go entirely in the derech of Ayin Beis, but a lot of it is based on the Ayin Beis. So the three words, Tishmu'un, Shmartem, V'asisem, and Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, the three words, Bris, Chesed, Shvua, is the schar on the three levels of Machshava, Dibur, Maisa, and then comes the caveat, then comes the code, then comes the chiddush. And this, our Rebbe doesn't say like it says in Ayin Beis. The Rebbe goes in a different direction. The Rebbe says Aikev means Mashiach. Aikev, what the Rebbe is going to say in the moment, Aikev means Mashiach. Right? There's a concept of doing all mitzvahs on the level of Shabbat Dibur Amaisa, Tishmu, Shmartem, V'asisem. You get a schar, Bris, Chesed, and Shvua, and then there's one more key word, Aikev. And the Rebbe in the Ayin Beis, he touches Aikev about Birurim, elevating sparks. Here the Rebbe teaches Aikev saves man agolos, the end of the times of Golos. Why? So the Rebbe says this avoida of Tishmun u'shmartem v'asisem, which gets you the schar of Bris, Chesed, and Shvua, happens for sure when Mashiach comes. This is the mind. Okay, this is the mind. So we're going to learn. We're going to learn Allah Seder. We're going to learn in order. Obviously, I'm not going to read every word, but we're going to learn enough for the Maimed to be, with Hashem's help, clear for us. Okay, that's going to be the plan. I sat down this morning, I prepared the Maimed. I really did prepare the Maimed. And I sort of told myself as I walked out of my house that after I finish teaching it, I'll be ready to teach it. This happens to me a lot. You know, you sort of know what you want to say, but you feel like you're frustrated in the way you understand. There's not a chayes and a simche. So I feel like when I'm finished teaching it, I'll be ready to teach it. But I think you have to come. I came late enough. So let's go. So again, I just want to repeat one more time. This Maimed is based on one of the earlier Rabbeim. It's based on the Rebbe Rashab. It's based on the Tzemach Tzedek. But the Rebbe takes the word Aikev different than the Rebbe Rashab. Instead of Aikev having to do with Birurim, the Rebbe says Aikev has to do with the end of time. Save Achris Hayom, Din of Mashiach. So let's go. Vihaya Aikev Tishmu, that's Mishpatim Ha'elo, Shmartem V'asisem. If you will listen to the judgments, and you will guard them, and you will do them, so then you'll get a schar. Shalom, and Hashem Adachach is going to guard for you as a bris, the covenant, as a chesed, the kindness, Asher Nishbal Avisecha, that he swore to your fathers. You do, as you say this year. You know the Kasha of Rashi, and the emes is Rashi of the Rebbe of the Kasha of the Rabbeim. And Rashi asks this question, next line, why does it say Aikev? Aikev means heel. Aikev means if. The meaning of the word Aikev is kiva. If you will listen, right? It says im tishmun, or asher tishmun. So the word Aikev means if. There are a number of other words that could mean if, like im or asher, or leman that I'm going to bring later, that are more classic. Skip 2 lines. We find in a number of places in Torah. If you'll do this, you'll have this char. And I circled the words. In the vast majority of places, when the Torah wants to say a word, it denotes if and then. Right? If you'll do, then you'll get. If you'll do this, you'll get this. They don't use the word Aikev. Next line in our parsha it says 6 lines from the end of the paragraph. Here it says heel. It says the Rebbe why? Why does Aikev means heel, but Aikev also means if? Why are we using an unusual lashon? And the answer is, you look at footnote 6. You see the Makedis in the Tzemach Tzedek, and in the Alter Rebbe. Sha'inyan the Aikev Kel Pirush Nesa. The word Aikev has a second translation besides for if and when. That's why in our passion we use this unusual term Aikev rather than the more typical term Leman. That it should have more than one meaning. The Torah uses a funny word, Aikev. And a lot of the Rishonim, of course, on Chumash talk about this. Why are we using the funny word Aikev rather than the typical words Im or Laman? And the Rebbe says because there's a second meaning. What is the second meaning? Miloshin Seif. Aikev means the heel, the end. The Koi al Acheres Seif Hayom, and it goes at the end of time. Ikves el Loshin Aikev the Mashiach. Says the Rebbe Shazel was man shall they do that. This is our time. Sha'az was at Vihaya Aikev Tishman, and it will be at the end of time. And later on in the Maimed, the Rebbe is going to bring that Vihaya Pedikei, that Vihaya is Lashon Simcha, and the other pratim. Right? It says Vihaya Aikev, that the word Aikev goes in the times of Mashiach. Why? Sha'az Tishman Vaday. Because Vihaya Aikev Tishman doesn't only mean if you will listen. It means when you will listen. Vihaya will be Aikev at the end of time. Tishman, Kivash Zel Kvav, Aikev, Seif Hazman. The end of time, Ikvus of the Mashiach Acheres HaYomim. And we will certainly do it. So the way you say it is this, right? The Eibishter created a world. And he created Neshamas. And he gave them a mission. And the Eibishter is going to see his through. What Hashem wants is going to happen. It's going to happen in this way, or it's going to happen in this way, as we say in Tishma Shalamita. Vein begilgul zeh, vein begilgul achet. But the Eibishter wird sein oisvil. What the Eibush is planning is going to happen. So when Mashiach comes, it's going to happen for sure. So the title Vihaya Aikev means when Mashiach comes, it's not only going to be if Tishmon, Ushmarten, Vasisa, that you're going to get Bris Chesed and Shur. It's the pshat, you will for sure listen. There's no tomorrow. For sure you will listen, and therefore there will certainly be the Tishmon, the Shmarten, and the Asisa, and there will certainly be the Bris and the Chesed and the Shur. Now later on you're going to see that the Rebbe is going to say more. The Rebbe says that the meaning of the word Aikev is Mashiach. V'haya Aikev, when Mashiach comes, there will be Tishmon, Ushmarten, Vasisan, and the Schar will be Bris, Chesed, and Shur. Each one, Tishmon, Ushmarten, Vasisan, means Machshava Dibur Maisa. Bris, Chesed, and Shur, the Schar is also Machshava Dibur Maisa. So in the meantime, the Rebbe is taking the word Aikev Mashiach, meaning to say that when Mashiach comes, we will for sure do the Rocks and the Elif. So we take it. Later in the Maimed, the Rebbe is going to add more. The Rebbe is going to add more. That when Mashiach comes, Vihaya Aikev, when Mashiach comes, it's not just that we're certainly going to do the will of Hashem, but there's going to be more in the Tishma'un, there's going to be more in the Tishma'un, and there's going to be more in the Vasisen, as you'll see later on in the Maimed. Okay, now the boys, I am, like I said to you before, I feel like when I finish teaching this, I'll be ready to teach it. So I'm speaking extra words because I'm not 100% focused in my own mind. So forgive me for being repetitious. In this Maimed, you're going to have two Machshava Dibur Maisas. We do Tishmon, Shmarten, Asisa is Machshava Dibur Maisas. The Eibush gives us a Schar, Bris, Chesed, Shur, which is Machshava Dibur Maisas, and then Aikev. Aikev means Mashiach. In the times of Mashiach, and saves Man HaGolos, and Tikvah of the Mashiach, there will be the Tishmerun, and Asisa, and therefore there will be the Bris and the Chesed and the Shur. Later in the Maimed, the Rebbe is going to say something more about Mashiach, and therefore something more about the Tishmerun and Asisa. So we go, Vihaya. Indians said this idea. Mashiach comes with a short list. But the Eibishter wird sein Oisvirin, what the Eibishter needs to happen is going to happen. And by the way, our generation, the Pashtus, is the Tshuva generation after the Holocaust, for the time of Tshuva. The Gemara speaks about Indian Tshuva. The Gemara brings two opinions whether the Eibishter makes us do Tshuva by bringing us terrible dangers, or the Eibishter finds another way to make us do Tshuva. But the bottom line is that the Rambam Paskins. Yisrael, the Rambam Paskins. The Torah guarantees If Ticha Teda, they be the promise. As you saw, of course, the kasha becomes. If the Eibishter guarantees that we're going to do tshuva, where's Abchira Chavshis? And the Rambam brings the whole union of Abchira Chavshis. Rambam's discussion of free will is dafka benegiyah to tshuva. So I'm sure there's good terutzim to this kasha, but this is the nekudah. That we say that since we have free will, we should exercise that free will to do tshuva. And then the Rambam says there's a guarantee. If Ticha Teda, you saw listen tshuva, miyadei go. So the Rebbe continues, and he says, "Ba'achrit hayom eikev." That at the end of time, when there's going to be Mashiach's time, Tishmun vada, you're going to get l'chol prati and yonim because it's not just that in general, Yid not going to do the Ratzna Elyon, but in specifics, they can do Ratzna Elyon. And what are these specifics? Shem Gimel Asugim Tishmun Ushmartem Vasisa. Shmir, Shmira, Asiyah. It's three different things. It says in Chassidus about these three words. It goes on thought, speech, and deed. Kavana, Regesh, Mais. And again, I'm putting words into the mind, but it seems to be so later on. Machshava also means seichel, and dibur also means midas. We're going to do Yiddishkeit completely. Bottom of page Shin Tzadik Vav. Ki ha'in in the tishma'on, the word tishma'on, to listen. Keil gam shmiya v'akshurim avon, it means to understand. Kemei you find in Chumash that the word shmiya means to understand. Top of page Shin Tzadik Zayin, now Shu Tol Van Avach Avach means to understand. Shezawinyan HaMachshava. So, Tishma'un means thought. Right? Vihaya Aikev. At the end of time, you will for sure learn and understand Torah. Think, learn, and understand Torah. And of course, the pshat here means learn and understand and think the seichel of each mitzvah. Then it says, "V'achred yeshim b'shmatim." Says the Rebbe, "Shmatim is dibur." But a kedei sheyin nishma. Related to for a person to remember something and not forget it. Totally as halim, the person has to learn behavior in the mitzvah in the pedafter. If you want to learn something, you never forget it. You have to say it b'dibur. Even if you're saying it with your mouth, but you're not saying it loud, you're liable to forget it. If you learn Torah, you want to remember it, you say it. How high to make it command? If you it says in Tanya that you have to say the words of Torah with all of your body. And when you say Torah with all of your body, you never forget it. So the Rebbe says, so Shmira means dibur. Shmira means dibur. Shmira means to never forget. To never forget Torah, says it. Or means a move which leads us to an understanding. Sha'inyan u'shmarten baba dibur. The u'shmarten means dibur. Because only when a person speaks is there a preservation of Torah. And again, I'm going to again put words into the mind. It doesn't only mean dibur, it means speaking with the regesh, with passion, with emotion. So you shouldn't forget. So Tishma means to think and understand. Shemina means to speak and feel. And then of course, on the Acher is the name of Asisa Minyanamais. So the Rebbe says, you see that these three words, Shmiya, Shmina, Asiya, are Machshava Dibur Amais. This explains why in my Maimor they don't say what Rashi says. What does Rashi say about the word Aikev? Rashi says about the word Aikev, she'Aikev koi al inyonim she'odom dosh va'akev. That Aikev means mitzvahs that people trample with their heels. Mitzvahs that everybody else ignores. And the Chassidus doesn't want to bring the pshat of Rashi. Rashi says Aikev means mitzvahs nobody pays attention. Chassidus says Aikev means Mashiach. Why doesn't Chassidus like what Rashi has to say in the text? Since after the word Aikev, it speaks about how Yiddishkeit, Torah, and mitzvahs, every Indian of Torah, every idea of mitzvah has to happen. All three levels of Machshava Dibur U'Maaseh. So the Rebbe says, "Mitzvah move, what leads us to the understanding." We're not talking about something cultural, too secondary. After all, mitzvahs that people neglect is because they're not so important. We're taught to have very zohid mitzvah kala. Be careful about a small mitzvah like a big mitzvah, but you call it mitzvah kala and you call it mitzvah chamura. Rashi says Aikev means mitzvah kalas, so the Rebbe says the Chassidus doesn't want to say that. Because since Shmira, Asiyah, good Machshava Dibur U'Maaseh, it can't just be mitzvah kalas. The whole Aveda of the person is included. in Machshava Dibur Maaseh. So instead of the Hasidus following Rashi's approach, that Aikev means mitzvah that people trample on, he says that it goes over Mashiach. By the way, I think that Ramban says this. The Ramban brings several types of Aikev. He brings it means schar, but I also think it means he brings that it Acher Sayom. I don't see it in the Maram Akemis, but I'm almost certain. Or Kemavur Besvarim. Look at, you see Kemavur Besvarim? Look at footnote 14. What's Besvarim? And look at the Teire Pashas Pinchas. Kemavur Besvarim shekol mitzvah yesh nei inyan shamachshava dibur maaseh. Pashas Pinchas is talking about karbanos. Now the Rebbe explains at length that a carbon has to be at all three levels of machshava dibur and maaseh. So the Rebbe says we learn from this that the shleimus of any mitzvah, and even the shleimus of learning Torah, is when it happens at all three levels. Shmiya, Shmira, Asiyah, Machshava, Dibur, Maaseh, Seichel, Midas, Levushim. So we don't go in Rashi's there that said that Aikev means mitzvah to Adam Dosh Ba'akeva. We say that it means Mashiach because we see the word Aikev as including the whole of Yiddishkeit. Now, if you look at the margin, I wrote a note, right? That on page Shin Tzadik Tes, the Rebbe is actually going to go back to this Rashi. And he's going to say again, here the Rebbe is saying that Chassidus goes away from the Rashi. Rashi says that Aikev means mitzvahs that everybody ignores. Chassidus says Aikev means Mashiach's coming when we do all the mitzvahs, Tachas HaShleimot, Shamlas V'nechak mitzvahs Tzimach. He doesn't want to say like Rashi, because Chassidus sees in these words, Tishma'un, Ta'asun, all that they have mitzvahs, but later on the Rebbe is going to go back and bring this Rashi again, and he's going to say, no, yeah, we mean it. Adam Shadosh Ba'akeva, but the diak is going to be Afilu mitzvah Adam Dosh Ba'akeva, or Afilu Ba'oifej Adam Dosh Ba'akeva. You'll see how it's not a contradiction, but here the Rebbe says that Chassidus goes away from the Al Yishol Rashi. Later in this Maimeh, the Rebbe is going to say that no. What Rashi says is also consistent with our derech. In other words, we're saying that Aikev means when Mashiach comes. Because when Mashiach comes, it's going to be Tishma'un Vadai, we're for sure going to do it. Rashi says something different. So here the Rebbe is explaining when we don't follow Rashi. Later the Rebbe is going to say that what Rashi says is also going to be with Mashiach. V'alpizem Muzra, 4 lines at the end of the paragraph. This also explains Gamatam of Schar Mitzvah, that the Schar for Tishma'un, Tishmerun, and Ta'asun is the three things, the Shamar, Hashem, Gavas, Bris, Chesed, and Shur. It's 3 for 3, yes? Ki, but you give on Yon Meilu, Bris, Chesed, and Shur. The three things, Bris, Chesed, and Shur, can I give on Yon, and Machshava, Dibur, Maaseh. That Shmiya means Machshava, and Chesed means Machshava. Because when a person does an act of kindness, it's primarily in his heart. Shmira means Dibur, and Shvua means Dibur. Because the Shvua you have to say the Dibur. And Asisa means Maaseh, and Bris means Maaseh. Because the whole idea of a bris, you'll see later on the Maimon, you cut an animal in half, and you go through between the parts, and you become one Gashmi as different group. So the Schar Machshava Dibur Maaseh is the Shleimus that the Eibishter gives us in these 3 areas: Bris and Maaseh, Chesed and Machshava, and Nishba and Dibur. So what do we have so far? Aikev means when Mashiach comes. And when Mashiach comes, the famous word that's brought in the Mekacha, the Shalom, Nasla, Fanecha, Kumitz, V'Tinech, when Mashiach comes, we're certainly going to keep Yiddishkeit. B'Shleimus. What's B'Shleimus? So of course in the Rambam we know all Taryag mitzvahs, including the last 3 cities of refuge, to do for us. And that we're going to do them on all 3 levels of Machshava, Dibur, and Maaseh. This is what the Maimon said so far. Yeah? But there's more. The Yesh L'Haisif. Now this Yesh L'Haisif, again, I'll be honest, I read the Maimon, then I took out the Ayin Beis and I learned the Aikev and Ayin Beis. But I didn't look up the Ratei, I did not look up the Tzemach Tzedeks, and I certainly did not look up the Alter Rebbe. So I do not know if what we're about to learn was already said by the Tzemach Tzedek. But if I was a gambling person, and I'm not a gambler, I would say that from here, the entire Perek Gimel, which dominates the Maimon, it's the longest Perek in the Maimon by far, it's 2 whole Amudim, is the Rebbe's. Oh, Rebbe. What's the Rebbe going to do now? So let me repeat. The Maimon begins with a kasha, right? If I have more than one word that means one thing, why do I choose this word and not the other? The word if or when has many Hebrew words. Why do we use the word Aikev specifically? And we answer. Because Aikev has more than one type. It means if and when. It also means the end. Achar Sayed. So this same kasha we're now going to do about the three words. Tishma'un, Ushmartem, Vasis. There are many words that mean Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh. Why does the Maimer choose Vihaya Aikev? When Mashiach comes to Tishma'un, you're going to have Machshava Tarab Mitzatera. Ushmartem, you're going to have Dibur Tarab Mitzatera. Vasis, you're going to have Ma'aseh Tarab Mitzatera. What would have happened if it was Vihaya Aikev? Tachshavun, Dabru, Tasisu. The word Shmira, Asiya. And the answer is going to be the same. Just like the word Aikev is chosen, because Aikev has more than one taich. Tishma'un is chosen because it has more than one taich. Tishma'un is chosen, and this part of the Maimon gets very vague, also has more than one taich. And Taskun has more than one taich. So just like the word Aikev is preferred, because it hints at more than just one thing. It means if and when, and it means when Mashiach comes. Tishma'un, which means Machshava, is going to be chosen because Tishma'un has another touch. Tishma'un, which means Dibur, is going to be chosen because it has another touch. And Tasson is going to be chosen because it has another touch. And that's the Maimon. The Nakud of the Maimon I already told you. I always do this. I start the shir, I tell you right away what's going to happen. That's my job. But this Arichas here, this is the Rebbe's. Let's go. יש לחייס לבי העניין שטעם המילים כמלן המחשב דיבר המייסד בכמלן שאין תשמעו. שמעתם ועשיתם. Why do we choose these three words? Shmiya, Shmira, and Asiyah. Skip the parenthesis. אף ששייך לאומרם בכמה לשיינים, ובהתאם לכך it's consistent with the fact שמדובר כאן את זכר היום, since we're talking about Mashiach's time. And that's why we use the word Aikev, because Aikev doesn't only mean if and when, it means when Mashiach comes. So because it means Aikev, when Mashiach comes, we have to say Dafka Shmiyah, because when Mashiach comes, Shmiyah is going to have more than one taich. Let's say Dafka Shmira, because Shmira is going to have more than one taich. And we're going to say Dafka Asiyah, because that's more than one taich. And all of this is going to happen when Mashiach comes. You know what that means now? You know what that means now? And that means us? That means here. It's pretty interesting. So you have three paragraphs. The first paragraph is Tishmon. The second paragraph is Shmira. I actually wrote it on the margin of the next page. And the third paragraph is Asiyah. Vihaya. Halashon Tishmon Tel Eid Pirush. Tishmon means to understand and to hear, but it means something else. What is that something else? Halashon Asiyah the kibbutz. It means to gather. Like it says in Tanakh, by Yeshama Shol, he collected the people. So V'hoyeh, if and when Mashiach comes. When it's not just going to be an if, it's going to be a vadai, there's going to be Tishmon. You're going to learn and understand, and you're going to collect. You're going to be ma'aseh. That's why the chosen word in the pasuk is Dafka Shmiyah. The key mentioned only end of time, the end of Birur, was not seen in Machshava. Turn the page, please. The page inside the chest. But Eifen Chapel, Asifas called and it neglect all the sparks. In other words, the Rebbe says there's a Birur on the level of Machshava. You would think that Birurim is big on the level of Asiyah. Shmiyah, V'hoyeh Aikev Tishmon means you think, you understand, and you collect. If you use the word machshava would mean thought. If you use the word havana, it would mean understanding. But it doesn't include gathering. So just like the word Aikev is precise, because Aikev has more than one meaning, if and when, and achar is hayomim, the word shmiya is precise, because it means to understand, and it also means to gather. Good? Yes, I'm reading on. Next paragraph, now this paragraph is hard to understand because the Rebbe doesn't really say what's the tet and taich. We use the word ushmartem and we mean speech. Shmira means to guard. In context, what does guard mean? To preserve, not to lose. One of the ways of not losing something is repeating it and repeating it and repeating it. I want to tell you the story. I'm in the story business. That's what I do. I tell stories, and I have a schus on it. Stories, to a great extent, I remember, and I hopefully remember that with some degree of accuracy. So I was at a chasana last night, and a young man told me a maisen about his father and the Reb Nissim. I can say his name. I'm not going to say his name. Okay, I don't know how I decided when yet to say a name. It's a beautiful story. He told me, this younger man, that he learned by the Nissen in France. He was a real troublemaker. And he got many knosses. And because of the knosses that he got, Rav Nissen made him chazan by heart 47 Prokham of Tanya. 47 Prokham of Tanya knows not play. 47 Prokham of Tanya knows not. And he said to Rav Nissen, he said, oh yes, you can. He said, how do you know? This is because your father. And he told me this. He says, my tate had gelebt in the Rastov. We're talking now in the 1930s and the early 40s. There was no time in Rastov. He says, my tate come to Kentivity. He tells me, my father come to live. When they came out of Russia, they came to Poking and later to France. He says, my tate my father wanted to go into Tenchimini. And they said, no, I can't. But the tate said, he wanted very much. So this is my father, if you're Chazer in ganz Tanya. Can you imagine? Chazer in ganz Tanya, you memorize the whole Tanya. So he did it. He knew by heart the whole Tanya. And when he finished, this took him to yeshiva. So he says to his son, don't tell me you can Chazer Tanya. Your father, who never learned in a cheder, you went to cheder. Yeah? Your father never went to a cheder. You Chazer ganz Tanya, so you can Chazer Lo. But then you have Romadita. But if Nissen said to his father, that every night after Hamapu, he should think over one payment. So we shouldn't forget it. That's called Shmira. Now, it's not consistent with the Maimon, because the Maimon says that Shmira is after Dibur, and then Nissen told him to do it after Hamapu. That's like Yifam Achshav. So, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect in all problem. But Shmira means I shouldn't forget. The eights in this Maimon, to never forget is to speak, and to speak b'koil, and to speak b'reg. So the Rebbe says that Inyan Adiv and Amrishkit, says there's many. If we say in the mind, Vihaya Aikev Tachshavon Utzidavim, it means speech. Now there's different kinds of speech. There's soft speech, there's hard speech, there's quick speech, there's slow speech. You have to use the word Shmira because Shmira is a certain type of speech. If we would say Dibur, it could mean talking. But when you say Shmira, it means talking in the kind of a way that you never forget what you said. So the Mela again, just like the word Tishmu has to represent Machshav because it has more than one type, Lashon Asifa. So when it comes to the word Tishmer, you also have to use this word because it's a specific type of speech which guarantees that you never forget. This is based on the Gemara's Prat Tanya, that you have to do it in such a way that your whole body, and then you never forget. And the Rebbe teaches nachapshat. Not only nishma that you don't forget it, but nishma we call them you guard it against all undesirable things. Ukmei kol satziv benegay leteru mitzvahs leitesifu leitiglu sheshemer adova k'mei shehu, that you guard the Torah mitzvahs, that they should be the way the Eibishter wanted, and guarding the Torah mitzvahs should be the Eibishter wanted without adding and without diminishing is shmira mikol davar bilti us. So now, just like the word shmira means machshava, and it means asifa, the word shmira means dibur, but dibur in a way that it's shamur. Not only you don't forget it, but you guard it not to corrupt. And then the Rebbe moves on to something else. This is less directly connected to the Indian. The Indians are now saying, Man Malka Rabba, this happens to the Rebbe, Man Malka Rabba. Sha'keach shalahem or the Adibur. The Rebbe's keach is Adibur. The Rebbe said this about himself. He spoke about it when he gave the Friedrich Rebbe, that the keach of a Rebbe is Dibur. Speech. But Dibur is also Gami Loshen Yad Debeh. See, this is how the Maimon gets tricky. The Maimon is on the word Shmira, and more than one type of Shmira. And the Paltiel, the Rebbe explains the word Dibur, and how Dibur has more than one type. Because Yadber means to control. Yadber means to, it also means to collect. Yadber, to dominate others. So the word Shmira means Dibur. And Shmira means Dibur in the kind of a way that you don't forget, Dibur in a kind of way that it's not being, what is the Lashon? Dava bilti rotzah. But in addition, it also means to control. It's not enough to think. It's not enough to speak. From the speech has to be a psak halacha l'maisa, what you need to do, malases and maleilas. And valzehi hashmir. This is the end of the word shmira, that after the whole pilpul of elu, ve'elu, divri, elikim, chaim, yafaramayim, all. So here is a third Indian, right? First of all, shmira means you speak in such a way that you never forget. Second of all, shmira means you speak in such a way that you never forget and you never go in a bed that a. Third of all, shmira means that it brings the halacha l'mais, that you're speaking Torah until you have a psak din. How does shmira mean halacha l'mais? Because shmira is the word dibur, and dibur means halacha l'mais. So this is a bit tricky. The whole point of the Maimon is why we're using the word shmira, not the word dibur. And l'poyel, it's really a combination. We're using the word shmira, we mean dibur as well. So let's talk this over. Forgive me for being repetitious. Aikev has two taichin. Aikev means if and when, and Aikev means the Mashiach. Shmira has two taichin. To understand and to collect spark, which is what happens when Mashiach comes. Shmira has three taichin. To preserve, to protect from becoming corrupt, and from bringing it to a psak din the mice of what should be done. Next paragraph. Why do we use the word asiyah? Now, of course, asiyah is the logical word to use for an action. But nevertheless, it says in Hasidus, Shasiyah is miloshen, ma'asin al-tzedakah. The word asiyah means to force, to coerce. Forcing somebody to do something is called me'asin, to coerce. It's not only that you do the parts of Yiddishkeit that make sense to you. It's like that you agree with. Moreover, he reaches a madrege where anything the Eibush tells him to do, he understands, he agrees with, and he does it wholesomely. Let's say you're so smart and you're so deep and you're so sensitive, every Indian of Yiddishkeit agrees with you. And every individual you agree with it, you do it with a geschmack. Not enough. There has to be also an iskafia. Now, where is the iskafia? If you have a geschmack in Yiddishkeit, where is the iskafia? It's a good kasher. That's why it says the word mishpatim, that mishpatim means mitzvahs of seichel. 3 lines from the bottom. He brings the implication because it says in Chasidus that there's a mile in iskafia over his house. Iskafia is lower than his house. And Chavcha means that I become one with the Elokus and about. Kfiyah means I'm fighting with myself. But there's a mile in iskafia over his house. And the word asiyah does only mean that I do it. Asiyah means that I do it in such a way that there's an element of iskafia. So even if I enjoy it, I somehow bring myself to doing it in a way of kfiyah. How? So look at the next paragraph. The Yeshla. And he goes back to that Rashi that on the previous page. Remember I told you before, Rashi touches mitzvah Shodom Dosh Ba'Keva. Now the Rebbe goes back to it. Every Indian in Yiddishkeit has the kal of it, the secondary aspect. The Indian of Asiyim, watching Fiyah Kosher Gam Pirish Rashi, which is on page Shin Tzadik Zion, the Rebbe said our Maimon doesn't go in that way of Rashi. Now it goes backwards. That Aikev Koyala mitzvah Shodom Dosh Ba'Keva, mitzvah that people trample with their heel, and you do them Aikev Tishnu. That you do them with the kfiyah, which is a idea of kefe as atzmei. Say some, and then the Rebbe connects the kfiyah to ushmartem, to knowing the halacha correctly, and he connects the kfiyah to shmiyah, which means gathering the all over the world, and so on and so forth. So what's the Rebbe saying? I don't know what the Rebbe is saying, but I think what the Rebbe is saying is that you'll find a lashon in Tanya, ma'at her yesem v'yilusim, a little more than you're having. The happy of a person is 100 times. Ma'at yesem v'yilusim is me'av achas, it's 101 times, correct? But you have another lashon in Tanya, which is not so well known. Not a little more than you're happy, a lot more. This is Tanya Perek Lamed, chapter 30, where it says, the Rebbe says, there's not a person in this world who cannot find a way of finding a stop in his life. Meaning, even if the whole of Yiddishkeit is so delightful to you that you're such a chayes and with such a simcha, look for the dvarim sha'adam dosh ba'akeva. In your prime life, in your incredibly full life, find what you consider kal. What you consider kal. And because you consider it kal, adam dosh ba'akeva, and do that. with a kfir. And that's the Taich V'asisa. V'asisa means that even if I reach a madrega where all of Yiddishkeit is for me a tainug, I find a way of having this kapi. So the Rebbe took 4 words, and he says you have to use each of these 4 words, because each of these 4 words has more than one meaning, and if you would use an alternative word which means the same thing, you wouldn't have that. Aikev means if and when. And Aikev means when Mashiach comes, Bavadai Tishma. Tishma means to understand. Tishma also means to collect sparks, which happens when Mashiach comes. Tishma means to guard. Tishma means not to go away in a bad way. And Tishma means bringing it la-halacha la-maisa, paskening halacha la-libet. And Asiya means to do it, and to always find a place in my life for Iskafia. That's the mindset, right? That's the mindset. So again, the symmetry, the beauty of the mindset is the alignment. You have 3 things. Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh, Tishma'un, Tishma'un, Taseh. And then the next paragraph are going to be aligned to the Schar, Bris Chesed and Shvuah, which is also Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh. But then there is the Chap, Aikev. And this doesn't say in the Rebbe Rasha. The Aikev means Mashiach. Because Mashiach is Bevadai Tishma. And that's why you use the words Tishma and Taseh, because when Mashiach comes, we're not just going to do mitzvahs on Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh, we're going to do mitzvahs on the alternative taichin in Tishma'un, and the alternative taich of Tishmarun, and the alternative taich of Taseh as well. And that's why you have to use that in these words. Perfect, right? I guess that's how you would say it. The Rebbe continues, pay the down, a little painful. Nowadays, in Nasagam Maschar, but even as a Shoma, the Shabbat Yechanacho, as a bris, as a chesed, as a shur. In a bris is Maisa. I skipped the parenthesis, She'ein, Ben Abishadim, Nasa Mitzias Achaz. When you go to it, you put it from one Mitzias. She'ein, Leishayach, She'yeh, Ezi, In, Shukalavat. And when you connect, HaKadosh Baruch on a level, when you and the Eivish that are one book, bris, it can't be broken. Bris means that the Yid and the Eivish become like one group. When I wrote on the margin of Shtigal Ha'or, I didn't have time to look up the Makayim. But there's a sugya in Hasidus which is called Eskalalus. Inclusiveness, to include many different things together. Eskalalus. And there's 3 different Eskalalus that I brought into my mother. Mitzad Ermakeh, Mitzad Chalishus, and Mitzad the Bli Hashem Matzeh. In the Rebbe's Maimon, the Rebbe brings the 4th Eskalalus, which I maybe it says in my mother, the Rebbe Rasha, but I never learned that. What's the 4th Eskalalus? Ra'isi Meneira Zohar Kul, Mama of Chanukah, Mama of Rechi Eben, Vayigash. The Shiva Nereseh Aleha Kul of Mutzakis, and the Rebbe says that the Meneira has 7 branches, but they're made from one piece of gold, which means they're one roof. Now, the Rebbe doesn't entirely explain the Higoyim, the Havana, the Seichel, the Haskalah, but he adds a new dimension. That in addition to there being Ruchni is the Eskalos, a Neshama with a Neshama, a mind with a mind, a heart with a heart, senses with senses, there's a Eskalos of a Guf and a Guf to become one Guf. This is even a higher Eskalos than any kind of a Ruchni is the Eskalos. And that's what the Rebbe says the word bris means. You take an animal, you cut it in half. And you walk between the parts and you say, this animal is one. We're a part of this oneness because we're walking in between, in the middle of it. So the Rebbe is saying that the bris means an achdus between Yidden and the Eibishter, not only on the highest levels of Ruchnius, but till Poshet Begashmis in the roof. So the schar for Aikev, when Mashiach comes, there will certainly be Tishma'un, Taseh. Yiddishkeit, B'tachas HaShleimas, and all 3 levels of Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh, all different taichim, is bris. The Yidden and the Eivish become one group. Then Chesed, which is Midas Shebelev. Now the Rebbe doesn't teach what Midas Shebelev means, he simply said Midas Shebelev. And my study is that spiritually speaking, unity between one person and another is through emotion. But you're not one with another person because you share ideas, or even agree with each other. You become one other person because you're emotional about that other entity. So Begashmi is this, and Beruchni is Chesed. Then the Rebbe says Shvuah, Akacha Shem Nishba, Shem Nimshach Ba'epi B'Tekev Shal Shvuah. It has the power, has the authority, the strength of a Shvuah. Shua means something which is unbreakable and so on and so on. So the schar we get when Mashiach comes, Vihaya Aikev, the Vadai Tishmur, the Tasman, is Bris Chassid and Shua, is that the bond between Yidden and the Eibishter is Betachas Hashlemis, Bekashmias, is Betachas Hashlemis, Beruchnias, and it has the takeoff of Meshua. And the Rebbe concludes with Vihaya. Now that the Rebbe in a mind explored the word Aikev, Tishmur, and Vasisa, so comprehensively he explores the word Vihaya. That it says in Chassidus, based on a medrash in Vihaya al Lashon Simcha. The word Vihaya means Lashon Simcha, right? Vayehi is Lashon Sa'ad. It was as Lashon Sa'ad. It will be as Lashon Simcha. So it says in Chassidus, Sheteva as Vihaya. The reason the word Vihaya means Simcha is because in the word Vihaya you have Vavke and then Yudke. Vavke comes before Yudke. What is Vavke before Yudke? The cave of the same again. The woman is higher than the man. Which will be Mashiach come. That's why when Mashiach also says, V'haya havaya l'melech al kol ha'aretz. Haya, v'haya is vav k, yud k. Okay? So, V'haya means Lashon Simcha, and that the Aikev and the Tishmurun, Tasm is done in the way of V'haya, which is Inyan HaSimcha. V'yanim avoida, what does it mean practically? What is the practical side of a woman being higher than a man? Isn't that Kabbalah say, right, the word, Bas, Chila, Simen, Yofa, Lebonim. Bas means Kabbalah say, Rebbe says this. The Bonim, understanding Torah correctly, is predicated on Bas Chila, which begin with Kabbalah say, which is Vasisim, Lashon Ma'af, and Al-Tzaka, and even the Mishpatim turn now to page Taf, even though the Mishpatim, Lashon Rab, they're all B'Shovo, Shmartem, and Tishma'un, and Asisim. There are all three levels of Machshava Dibur HaMaisa, they're B'Tachas HaShleim. So, what do we now add? That V'haya means Simcha, and V'haya means Kabbalah Seil. You cannot have two more opposite things than Kabbalah Seil and Simcha. And it seems that Kabbalah Seil did more than a Skafia. Before we had Vasisim as a Skafia. It seems that the bittul of Kabbalah Seil may be even higher than that. I don't know. But in the word V'haya, you have Simcha, and in the word V'haya, you have Kabbalah Seil. I always think about my dad. Ivdu as Hashem v'simcha. You're a slave of the Eibishter with joy. Boyu lafona. You want to meet his face. You want to get involved with him. That's the song. But Ivdu as Hashem, an Evet Sameach Nefesh Avdecha. It's a funny thing. Like the Rebbe used to say, a soldier goes into battle with a victory march. A Kabbalah Seilnik has simcha. It's a different kind of simcha. And that's what the word V'haya conjures up. That even the bottom of Adam Doshbag Keva, that in mitzvahs for which we require Kabbalah Seil, there's escape, there's the Kabbalah Seil and the Simcha. It reads that Rambam said, Simcha, 7 lines into the page, the joy that a Jew has to have in doing mitzvahs is a great word. What is the Taija Veda Videla? It's hard. But on the other hand, it's not such a simcha. So the Yid serves the Eibush in a way that's hard, even though the simcha with the levav, right? This is what the Rambam teaches. It's called simcha shel mitzvah, whereas the Rebbe added the Yudah Medreg of simcha, which you do not have in the Rambam, you do in the Sikhis, which is called simcha b'taharasa. I'm sorry, simcha b'taharasa. The Rebbe connects it to the Teiv Leib Mishta Tamit of the Ramah and then the Berachayim. Because the difference between the Ramah Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam Shulchan Aruch. The Rambam has Simcha in Hilchos Sukkos. And the Ramah has Simcha in Hilchos Purim Karpim. Why? Because the Rambam Simcha is only Simcha Shal Mitzvah. It doesn't have a lower Simcha or a higher Simcha. The Ramah was much deeper in the Balus. So he has Teiv Leib Mishta Tamid. Simcha B'Ta'arasa. The Rebbe spoke about Simcha B'Ta'arasa. It's a Mekut Sichos. I think this is a Chen Chafal. I spoke about it recently here. It's a Sikha on Purim Karpim, where the Rebbe analyzes the difference between this Shulchan Aruch and this Shulchan Aruch, and the Simcha in this Shulchan Aruch, and the Simcha in this Shulchan Aruch, and then imports Tashim and Ches. Teitzei, the Rebbe connected it to the real Mashiach, that you can bring Mashiach through Simcha B'Ta'arasa, not Simcha Shal Mitzvah. Simcha B'Ta'arasa, this you don't have in Rambam, this is the Rebbe's addition. Simcha B'Ta'arasa, again, it's based on the Ramah, how the Rebbe understands the Ramah, but it's the Simcha B'Ta'arasa. So V'haya means Kabbalah Seil, and the Simcha of Kabbalah Seil. Okay, so what do we have? We have Aikev, which means if and when. It also means when Mashiach comes, bevadai tishmerun, and tasim, with the various different meanings of each word. Now we're adding Vihaya. All of this has a Kabbalah quality and the joy of Kabbalah. And then it concludes because and maybe because of Mamash Kiyma the fulfillment of the other part of it, the Schad. The bris means that a yid and the Ebi should become one group. There's a chesed, which means Kayachal, the yid, the Sham, and the Neshama, the Kus become one thing. That's I'm understanding. Then you have Hashem Nishba, the taking of Yeshua, the goal, the Cholach Adachas Yisrael, the Olam Yid Neshama, and the Mashiach Tzidkei. And he finishes the other, you will come here to say, you will reign with Kainenu, the Banenu, and they said in Kaspal Talamita, which means be rooted. Masvim, which of course the word Asifa, the word Shmiya means like Shama means to collect. So now it goes back to that. It's told that it could just describe Yaakov and Shleim. Hey mitzad machshava, hey mitzad diva, hey mitzad ma'isa. The Rebbe says that even in machshava this part, but then he adds a ma'isa God will do all of it. Okay.